Saturday mornings, standing on a street corner in Englewood, New Jersey, where I grew up, behind a card table with my father. I was 9 or 10, and we were gathering signatures on petitions for saying, "Stop all nuclear explosions." Did not seem strange to do this. After all, bombs were a threat. They had those signs at school, those yellow and black ones that said, "Fallout shelter." There were the air raid drills, being herded into the halls, sitting on the floor, knees up, heads down, arms over our heads. So we would know what to do when there was a bomb. According to the news, people were building bomb shelters in their backyards so that they would be safe when Russia dropped the bomb. So of course I thought standing on the corner and getting signatures to stop nuclear explosions was the right thing to do. Made sense. No more bombs. No need for fallout shelters. No sitting on the cold floor in the hallways at school, worrying whether my skirt properly covered me and if this position would really save me from the bomb. A couple of years later, in Midtown Manhattan with my grandmother at an anti-war demonstration, a sunny day. It was exciting. I was at my first real demonstration. We were standing on the sidewalk and in part of the street behind the gray wooden police sawhorses. The rest of the street was empty, except for the policemen on their horses. The horses were big, beautiful, and golden brown. Something happened. I do not remember what, but all of a sudden, the police were pushing us around. One on horseback grabbed a pregnant woman and dragged her along the street while riding his horse. It was ugly. It was scary. How could this happen? Graham and I were lucky. We did not get hurt. The memory of that pregnant woman being dragged and the outraged cries from the crowd are still with me 55 years later. Coming of age, the teen years, civil rights, and the war in Vietnam. I could not escape these issues. They were there in front of me all the time, on TV, in the newspapers, conversation and action around me. The town I lived in had neighborhood elementary schools, and I witnessed the effect of de facto segregation in neighborhood elementary schools. There was only one junior high and one senior high school, and once I reached 7th grade, I could see the difference in the quality of education among the 5 elementary schools in our town and how race divided us. It was an eye-opener. The Vietnam War, demonstrating against it, wanting to save lives, lives of men, boys actually, that we knew were in jeopardy. The draft. It was not easy, so much anger, hostility, directed towards those of us who are out there standing up for our beliefs, our desire to right the wrongs that we saw. Love it or leave it. The refrain we heard when we demonstrated against the war, against the draft. Why did love it mean to not question, do not voice an opinion that is different from that of the establishment? And why did I have to leave it if I disagreed? It was one thing to hear this refrain from the anti-demonstrators, faceless people who I did not know. It was another to hear this from people I knew, fellow students at school, teachers. A teacher once thanked me after a class discussion on the Vietnam War for taking a position that was clearly not my own to encourage class discussion. Name calling. I was branded a communist. No, it was not easy to continue, but to not continue was not an option. This was not how I was brought up. I was brought up in the left-wing Jewish tradition. On a scorecard of values, politics and social justice were 10. Organized religion, 0. We were carefully taught Like all children, our parents instilled in us their values, their views of the world, and our responsibilities in making the world a better place for all, and we were involved. Pushing for civil rights, boycotting lettuce, green grapes, Gallo, the list went on. Demonstrating, standing up, and being counted. Told always to have an ID and change to make a phone call in case we were arrested while marching or demonstrating. My parents would gladly come and bail us out. And yet, when you are isolated by your peers because of who and what you are, when you no longer belong to the group, it is tempting to walk away. But I could not. A refuge, a place where you are accepted, is necessary. I needed that. I needed belonging, and I was lucky. I found it at the Ethical Culture Society in a neighboring town. The leader of the society was a wonderful man, and he started a youth group, open to all, members or not. And so I went, and I did join. We spent our Sunday evenings discussing issues, the entire gamut, politics, personal issues, you name it, we got into it. And I had found my first community, people who cared from various backgrounds, wanting to make a difference together. Teens like myself, open to thought, willing to stand up for their beliefs, willing to take the risk that entails. It was easier to go to demonstrations, marches, to stand up and be counted. We were together, and we were stronger because we were together. And we had adult support as well. Our groups were always a mixture of ages, backgrounds. This was my social life. I miss those years. We were so sure and energized. We did not quit, and we witnessed the changes we helped bring about. The Civil Rights Act, the war on poverty, the end to the war in Vietnam, the end of the involuntary draft. So many good things came from the turmoil of that era, the era that is history to so many. Funny, I never did think I was making history. I was just working for change, for what was right. But I guess that is what history is, the story of change.